the myth of our control. You see, the world we are in is continually telling us that you are in control. And there is an element where we need to look after our lives and steward our lives well. But if we're not careful, we can take that on board and it becomes an unhealthy way that we live our life. We try to control a number of areas of our life. We can try to control our bodies, the way we look, the way we age, the fear of illness. We get completely obsessed by exercise or diets. We rationalize the costs of spending huge amounts of money on supplements or gym membership or medical procedures because we want to have control over our bodies. We want to have control over the way we look. We want to have control over the flesh that we stand in. But that is ultimately to no avail, because Scripture says that our bodies will wither away, that time will catch up with them, and one day we will pass away. Yes, we are called to steward our bodies well, but we are not to be under the myth that we can control them. The other area where we can try sometimes the world to get us to control is our possessions. Again, like our bodies, our possessions are not to control us, but our possessions are to be what we steward. We are to steward them well. But if we're not careful, possessions start taking over. We start these compulsive purchases. We start to have a fear of using what we have. Some of us will hoard. Some of us will buy and amass a massive amount of debt because there's a certain lifestyle that we want to live. It will impact our mood if we don't have a certain possession. It will impact our relationship with others because we're not willing to let go of a possession or share a possession. But again, Jesus says, ultimately, this is to no avail. We cannot take our possessions with us. There will be rot and moths and dust and dirt which will eat away. We cannot control aging in our bodies. We cannot control our possessions. They will come and go. They will wither. They will go out of date. They will not be in fashion. That is something that is a fact of life. Third thing we sometimes try and control in this myth of control that the world tells us is we try to control our relationships. We given relationships with one another by God. But so often they can lead to unhealthy relationships of control. We all know the extreme examples of this. We see it on the news. We see it when we hear of abuse victims or manipulative relationships. But all of us, if we're not careful, can try to control the relationships around us. I always need to have the last word. I always need to be right. It always needs to be my way or the highway. That can come into work life, family life, even with our spouses, with our children. You know, we can try to control relationships a particular way. But Jesus tells us that's not the way to live. That's not the way to be. Jesus tells us to put others' needs in front of your own. Jesus challenges us to be kind. You cannot control relationships. You are to bless others, be kind to others, see who can be the kindest in a relationship, the most encouraging in a relationship. And the fourth area that the world tries to get us to control is the area of our circumstances. Life is uncertain. We all know that. We don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what next year will bring. We don't know what even next week will bring often. But we can try to control the circumstances around us. We try to plan for every eventuality. And what happens is we can sometimes ruin the enjoyment of life because we are so planning for every eventuality, good, bad, and medium. We become controlling about what we let into our lives because we are so fearful of the circumstances that might ensue. But the Bible tells us that we are to live each day as if it was the last. We are not to worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow has enough worries of its own. We are to live today with the freedom that God has given us. You see, in all of these areas, and there are many more, where we have a myth of control, what we are really doing is we are reaching for a control that is basically saying, I want to govern the universe. I want to be God and not let God be God. I want to have my way. I want to take control of my circumstances, my body, my relationships, my possessions, my finances. And I am not willing to let the all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing, eternal, never-changing God be the one who governs me. It's the wrong way round. It's not the way round that God has called us to live. I want us to join with David in saying this. Look at 1 Chronicles 29 and verses 11 to 12. Listen to what David says. Yours, Lord, is the greatness and the glory and the power and the majesty and the splendor. For everything in heaven and on earth is yours. Yours, Lord, is the kingdom. You are exalted as head over all. Wealth and honor come from you. You are the ruler of all things. In your hands are strength and power to exalt and give strength to all. Now, our God, we give you thanks and praise your glorious name. I mean, what a scripture, what a wonderful heart cry that David called out to God. And when we are trying to control this and control that and have a myth that we've got our life sorted, let this be the heart's cry that erupts from within us. In your hands are strength and power to exalt and give strength to all. We give you thanks. We praise your glorious name. So the two applications from today are, number one, we are not to believe the myth that we are in control.